almost exactly 2 months after she won the US Open, Emma Raducanu finally has chosen a new coach. This young woman has basically been criticized for everything she has done after the US Open, from being called a party girl to being called a coach's nightmare, because she ended a cooperation or employment with the former coach, the coach that helped her win the US Open. But that was a temporary agreement to begin with. There has been a lot of back and forth about why she's waiting so long. And I have to tell you, from my experience on the WTA Tour, having played for 10 years, I think it's absolutely fantastic that she took her time, that she actually had some trials at her home base, and I think she has picked a great one. Torben Beltz, the former coach of Angelique Kerber, who is, to my mind, a great choice. My name is Meike Babel. I'm a former top 30 WTA pro. I played 19 Grand Slams, and I have insights that very, very few people have. I know what it's like to have to look for a coach, to find a coach, to work with a coach. And I think very, very few people know exactly how close a relationship between a player and a coach is. Tennis is a very, very weird sport in that you are an individual. There's not as many sports like that. Most people have, somebody in their head on the sidelines who's yelling, who's doing whatever, and pointing at the clipboard with, the designated place. That is not true for a tennis coach. And that is why I'm giving you my thoughts on why I think Emma Raducanu picked a great one and what I'm hoping they'll get done. Emma Raducanu said that she needed somebody with experience to now guide her after her ascent to now number 20 in the world. And I agree with her. So now the first thing that is really great about her finding a new coach, that it is finally laying to rest this back and forth about what she should do with a coach, who she should take, all these things. It's done. Decisions made, and that gives them a period of rest now before the Australian Open, where they can hopefully quietly in peace work together. As I said, it is very unknown to a lot of people how tight of a relationship that really is. When you travel with the same person day in, day out for about 310, 315 days out of the year, you are spending up to 12 hours with that person. You are traveling in pretty close quarters sometimes. You're hanging out in the hotel all the time. You're on the practice court. You're playing matches. You are in a high pressure environment. And there are 1,000 reasons why a coaching-player relationship does not work out. And I think it is absolutely Emma Raducanu's right to say that, hey, I reached a new level at my career. Whether that was within a week or not, doesn't matter. But I am at a level now that I do need somebody who's done this before. And Andrew Richardson clearly was not the guy for that. Their agreement was temporary anyways. He was a great guy for getting her to the US at number 200 and being there for 6 weeks. Nobody could foresee that she would win the US Open. But I think Emma Raducanu is a very, very smart, intelligent, self-directed athlete. And she absolutely has the right to make that choice. And she absolutely has the right to take a while over this because it is a crucial decision. And I can tell you about that from my own career. I had not as much choice or say in the decision of who to get as a coach twice in my career when I got a coach from the German Tennis Federation. I was not in the financial situation that I could have just chosen anyone. And to be perfectly honest, both of those coaches should have never been anywhere close to coaching females at any age. One couldn't speak English or German and was a coach of the old school who basically just dictated. And that's not what's happening anymore in 2021. The other one was emotionally abusive and would put anybody down, not just me, but other players that he worked with as well. That's why he never stayed with a player longer than 2 months. And that is, again, an example of what was unfortunately accepted when I played, because it was still the coach has the, absolute last word. That is no longer true. And what I think the new coach, Torben Beltz, brings to the table is that he is what I call a modern coach, which is kind of crap to say that we have to call it a modern coach, just because he actually is not swinging around a huge ego and goes with that old my way or the highway. So here are a couple of reasons why I think he's a fantastic choice. So I'm thinking Torben Beltz fits the bill of a modern coach, because he knows that the player he works with, is not going to get to the best performance possible if he's just dictating it down. Again, this was 20, 30 years ago, and people thought you could push players to their limits by just yelling at them and telling them what to do. That is no longer the case. Players have gotten a lot more picky. And yeah, are there still old school coaches there? Are there still cultures that maybe accept that autocratic leadership style? I'm not sure why we call it a leadership style. Anyways, yes, there are out there. But to my mind, you will not ever get as much out of the person that you work with if you do not realize that it's an equal relationship. It's a relationship of equals. And Emma Raducanu has made it very clear that she is the boss, as she should be. It's her life, it's her career. She should have the last say, after carefully weighing the opinion of an expert that she trusts and respects. And I think Torben Beltz fits that bill. He's got the reputation of being a super supportive and positive guy. I've talked to a couple of my friends who are still out and about in Germany, and that is really what everybody says about him, that he has understood that you're not just yelling at coaches. That's literally how nobody wants to be coached. At least I don't know anybody like that. He listens, he works with the player, he finds exactly how that player works up here, how she works in here. And that is what you have to respect. And that is what you have to work with. Every player is different, but he's shown that he is a really respectful and really supportive guy. And I think that's a really great decision Emma Raducanu has made, because she does not want to be told what to do. She wants to be told why somebody wants her to do certain things. And if she thinks that's the right thing to do, then she will do it. And that is exactly how you get the best out of the players that you work with. You want players, to my mind, who can think for themselves, because that's when they start to also problem solve on court. That's what you want. You don't want a player, to my mind again, who looks out at you and goes like, I don't know. But if they have worked with you in the decision making, in how you're training, how you're competing, you have a very self-directed and self-determined player, and that's exactly what you want. And I think that's exactly what Emma Raducanu is. So check mark on that for Torben. Another big plus, I think, is that Torben Beltz knows how to deal with a player's newfound fame or celebrity status. He started working with Angelique Kerber when she was, I think, when she started out. So she was a nobody. And for a while, they were playing, she was playing, nothing big happened. And boom, all of a sudden, and I'll get to that later, why, all of a sudden she wins 2 Grand Slams and is the #1 in the world. And if people think the British press can be brutal, so is Germany's press. So the demands that a #1 player at that point, Angelique Kerber, has, I don't think can be any bigger than the ones that Emma Raducanu now has on her time. And I think he knows exactly how to deal with that. I think he's a very level-headed, very calming influence, very wise influence that can guide her into what good choices are and what not good choices are. So I think that's another check for Torben. And the other thing really is that he understands that Emma Raducanu has made it clear that she does not want to miss either an on-court or an off-court session because of any non-tennis related obligations the media is going to put on her, her contract partners. When you go to a tournament, the superstar has to have more press time. They do more with the sponsors, and that's not just her sponsors. That's just everybody, who's involved with that tournament. So he knows all about that, and I think he can really help her make good choices there. So when Emma Raducanu said, I am making this very, very clear to everybody in my team that I will not ever sacrifice an on-court and off-court session for any contractual obligations, I think that shows a very mature young woman who knows exactly what she's dealing with. So anybody who is saying, oh, she's going to be overwhelmed by the attention or something, yes, of course she will be overwhelmed by the magnitude maybe, but she still seems to have in her mind, I have just made it to the top 20. I have just won the US Open and I haven't even started yet. I have so much of my career still ahead of me. I now need to buckle down and work. And speaking of working, on and off court, that is another reason why I think Torben Beltz is a great choice. Now, I watched Angelique Kerber when she was a junior, at the end of her junior career and going into the pros. And what I saw was a young woman who was very talented, good strokes, an unbelievable fighting spirit, but none of this whoa factor. I couldn't see the absolute amazing, stunning athlete that she would once become. And then she and Torben Beltz changed that. They sat down, at least that's what I've heard, and I think that's what Angelique said as well, that, okay, with the game that she has, Angelique needs to be the fittest and the toughest out there. And whoa, what a transformation. I mean, you had somebody who was absolutely talented and everything, but when Angelique Kerber made a run in 2016 and then subsequently reached #1 in the world, everybody was basically saying, how do I win against somebody who may not have the most fantastic strokes, but who basically matches every single one of mine, gets every single one of mine back, and outlasts me in every single rally, and she can do that for 6 hours if need be. That is a transformation. And that, I think, is something Emma Raducanu needs, and she knows that. She knows that she doesn't have the physicality yet to play day in, day out, 3-set matches for 4 or 5 times in a row in 7 days if you have a regular tournament, something that is absolutely grueling, and then travel to the next tournament, jumps across time zones if necessary or if she needs to, then does it again the next week, and then 4, 5, 6 times a year for the big tournaments, for the Grand Slams and for the Tier 1 tournaments. You have to do that for 6, 7 times in a row within 14 days or 10 days, respectively, for the Tier 1s. So she knows that she is not there yet. She's had injury issue even as a junior, but she's picked the guy who has done it before. And I think that's another big check for Torben. And now to what I might want to think about, the biggest reason why Torben Beltz is a good choice. Because he understands that being a tennis coach is not just about tennis. He is a really good choice because he has shown that he can get players who are in slumps. I'm not saying Emma Raducanu is in a slump, but she hasn't done as well as at least I had hoped to stave off all the negativity. But there must be some little self-doubt in there. And Torben Beltz has shown that he can take a player, and he's done it twice with Angelique Kerber. After absolutely fantastic years, she was struggling and not doing well, not basically, again, I'm doing the air signs, living up to the expectations. Because yes, if you win a Grand Slam, if you are #1 in the world, there are expectations. It's a totally different mindset. Winning the US Open as an underdog that nobody nobody thought about could win the US Open, to going to now I'm the number one seeded at a tournament, even if it's a smaller one, as Emma Raducanu was in Linz. So she experienced that for the first time, got knocked out in the first round. Happened to Angelique Kerber again a bunch of times when she was, coming off her really great years. But she had a coach on her side who didn't let her dwell on that. From what I'm hearing, it was always, always, always about you will A, get out of this, and B, you're not in any situation that you need to get out of because you are still a fantastic player. Don't let those self-doubts creep in. And of course, he's not just saying that, don't let those self-doubts come in, which is kind of what a lot of my coaches said, who did not necessarily understand that that does not help at all. He's also able to give them really constructive feedback that they can take and work with. So it's not just the, whoa, why don't you stay positive, and then don't give the player any tools. That's not the type of guy he seems to be. So that is a really great thing because, yes, Emma Raducanu will forever now be the hunted. She will not ever go to a tournament anymore and nobody knows her. She will be the hot stuff because she won the US Open. So that is another big check for Torben. When I coached at Vanderbilt, Coach McDonald, fantastic coach over there, him and me, we would ask each other on any given day how much of a percentage of coach we needed to be that day, or how much of supporter, friend, cheerleader, listener, and best buddy we would have to be, again, on any given day. And specifically on match day, I don't think we ever got to over 10% of being a tennis coach, talking about the strategy, talking about your serve, your forehand, your volleys, whatever. It is more about knowing when to say what, knowing what to say, and knowing when to not say anything at all. That is what makes a great coach. It is not the coach that, again, as I said in the beginning, stands there with a clipboard and goes, you have to do this, this, that, and this, and the other. You have to have the feel for what the player is receptive for that day. Now, and of course, I'm hearing the naysayers, oh, that's soft, that's doing this, or no, that's just being a human being working in the most cutthroat environment that I know, with the entire freaking world looking at you. And if you have a coach who understands that and who can then also do that, to say what needs to be said in a way that is heard, in a way that can be used for actually positive action, and who also knows when to just clearly shut up, you have a great coach. And who then, minor detail, actually knows a ton about tennis, you got a good one. So they now, Torben and Emma, have now 6 weeks, 7 weeks to get ready for the Australian summer, away from the press, just out of the eye of the media, the fans, everybody else. And I am hoping that they really get to work and have a good season in Australia, because I love watching Emma Raducanu and I wish her all the best. And I think she's really found a great guy.